Bonjour, mes amis. This video is a part of a larger collaboration with Faye. Faye invited me to participate in the wardrobe workout, and that it was difficult for me to find pieces because I am expecting, so things do not fit the way they used to. So this week's theme is Sunday's best, and I could not pass up this opportunity because of what Sundays and dressing your Sunday best means to the community of color. Audrey is also participating in this. I can't wait to see her pieces. We were asked to select two outfits from our closet and explain why we chose those outfits. I chose pieces that reminded me through and through of my late grandmother. A little bit of background about my grandmother. My grandmother was born in 1915. We Mesamis, 1915s. I like to joke and say that I am one of the only people of my generation who had like an authentic grandmother. And when I say authentic, when I was a small child, my grandmother was in her late 70s. Whereas a lot of my other friends, their grandmothers were barely 50. So I had an authentic grandmother. And it's like when I look at that date, 1915, the older I get, the more I can place context behind her date of birth. You know, when you put that into perspective, I'm trying to think of these dates offhand. I believe the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, I want to say in 1863. Someone tells me if I'm wrong. But when you put that next to my grandmother's date of birth, that's almost 50 years. 50-year gap between my grandmother's birth and the end of slavery. That very well could have made my great grandmother a slave. And what that means to me, again, because there's so many layers with me, with everything I do, when I began to think back at that, I think about why Sundays and dressing your Sunday best is so important to particularly people of color. When we were enslaved, Sundays were the only days that we pretty much had to do what it is that we wanted to do. It has been documented in history that slaves spent that time at church, and when they did the best that they could to look amazing. Whether that was sewing scraps together from curtains, from burlap bags, they did everything they could to look presentable. So that makes me think about as a small child with my grandmother. My grandmother was not a rich woman at all, not monetarily, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. She was filthy rich, but we did not come from money. But I will never forget the pride that my grandmother always took in every single thing she did. I can respect that and appreciate that as an adult, but when I was a child, I utterly detest the entire process. We weren't allowed to even check the mailbox if we had our head wraps on. We had to constantly scrub the few garments that we had. I remember having to clean my little play shoes whenever I came home, and it drove me crazy. But my grandmother operated on the notion that cleanliness was next to godliness. And there's so much about my grandmother that I would never forget, but one thing she said to me that always resonates, and it reminds me every day when I get dressed in the morning. She told me, we can't help that we were born Black. We can't help that we were born poor. We can, however, help and, change the way people look at us. And the way people look at you is your appearance and how you present yourself. So it was never acceptable for us to, behave or dress a certain way, even though we did not have money to have the finest clothes. What we did have, we took care of. And, I have so much pride now when I think about those things and I think about the sacrifices my grandmother made. And I'm sure so many other people's grandmothers. So I use that to base my selection on my clothes, everything about the way I dress in day-to-day life, not just for this wardrobe workout. The two pieces I chose today, the first one reminded me of my grandmother so much because women of that time were so matchy. Your coat had to match your dress, which had to match your shoes. And oh, I'm sure she is turning in her grave at the fact that my shoes and my purse were two different colors. But that was just the thing then. And you know, they would have the hats and everything had to coordinate. It was not, you know, negotiable. You had to. The second outfit that I chose that I'm wearing now, it just reminded me of the luxury of that time. This was a time when people took great pride in their appearance no matter where they were going. No matter where you were going, you always had an overcoat. You always wore pearls. You always wore lipstick. You always pulled yourself together. And it's emotional when I think about it, to think about what life must have been like for my grandmother and all people of color during that time, to take the effort to look like you didn't feel. It's phenomenal. I can't even begin to process that. So on days when I feel like, you know, I don't have it in me, I can't pull it together, I have to remind myself of the lineage that I come from. And I quickly snap back into, you know, into shape, into reality. So that is my Sunday's best. I say every day you should present your Sunday's best, and it speaks volumes. It really does. I hope you all enjoyed this quick video. I hope I didn't go on too long. I have the tendency to ramble on, so I'm trying to keep myself in line. Please feel free to send me photos, tag me in your photos of your Sunday's best. I am a history buff. I'd love to see childhood pictures of you, pictures of you with your grandparents, your mother, while you're getting dressed on Sundays. I would love it. I am going to end this video. So, ciao for now.